Judges and parliamentarian PO, this is Senator Tamboli speaking for the first time in this session. Just give me a nod when you're ready. The death penalty, the punishment of execution administered to someone legally convicted of a capital crime. This seems to be in the future of Zakir Tsarnaev, one of the Boston bombers. Now, don't get me wrong, Tsarnaev was a ruthless man who took away lives of innocent people. But senators, this bill isn't just about Tsarnaev, it's about the death penalty at large. It's about whether or not the death penalty should be abolished or not, and I stand in the firm negation of the death penalty. First of all, let's start talking about the cost. According to NBC News, it turns out that it's actually cheaper to imprison killers for the rest of their lives rather than to execute them, according to a series of recent surveys. Tens of millions of dollars cheaper during a tumbling recession when nearly every state faces job cuts and massive deficits. So an increasing number of them are considering abolishing capital punishment in favor of life imprisonment, not on principle, but on financial necessity. According to a study by the Kansas Judicial Council, defending a death penalty case costs 4 times as much as defending a case where the death penalty is not considered. In terms of cost, a report by the Washington State Bar Association found that death penalty cases are estimated to generate roughly $470,000 in additional costs to the prosecution, defending and defense versus a similar case without the death penalty that doesn't take into account of the cost of the court personnel. And second, it takes on a heavy toll on those directly involved with the execution. This includes prison wardens, chaplains, executioners, and correctional officers. According to the NCADP, the National Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty, many of those involved in the executions have reported suffering from PTSD-like symptoms such as flashbacks, nightmares, and other forms of distress. These symptoms are reported by multiple witnesses, such as journalists, executioners, and wardens alike. By directly participating in the execution process, prison workers have to face the moral implications of knowingly participating in the act of killing another human being. At the same time, those responsible for carrying out the execution do not have the benefit of hearing all the pieces of evidence presented at that trial. Many times, the doubt of the condemned person's guilt is a heavy burden on the consciousness of those that have to take part in to perform the execution. Ron McAndrew, retired warden of the Florida State Prison, says that at night I would awaken to the visions of executed inmates sitting on the edge of my bed. And also, the death penalty is not effective. What is the message that we are trying to send to other aspiring terrorists? That if you commit a crime in the U.S., that is off with your heads, and then they won't do it? Well, that is not the case. According to the ACLU, the vast majority of law enforcement professionals surveyed agree that capital punishment does not deter violence, but actually increases it. Senators, please join me in the negation of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you for that speech, Senator Rafia. For the judge's reference, that time of that speech was 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Questioners, please rise at the sound of my gavel. Yes, Senator?
Wait, could you explain exactly how the death penalty does not deter crime?
All right, so pretty much what happens is that giving the death penalty to the terrorists themselves sometimes makes the terrorist as a martyr, and then this causes other terrorists to act in their footsteps rather than seeing this as a warning to them.
Any other questions? Senator Ron?
Senator, I agree with you in that the fact that Zakir Tsarnaev was a ruthless man who injured quite a lot of people and even killed a few. But even the majority of Bostonians, the victims themselves, if you will, agree that life imprisonment is better. According to a WBUR poll, in a survey of 229 registered Boston voters, 62% said that Tsarnaev should be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole or appeal, while a mere 27%...
Please shorten your question. Next time, can you just please shorten your question?
Senator, that's a very good point, and that is, of course, a possibility as a punishment to Tsarnaev.
Any other questioners? Senator, you stated that it's not effective, but don't the innocent people have the right of having justice by having the death penalty for the murderer?
Though that may be a good point, but in many cases it's actually more effective of not only the terrorists themselves, but other people who are to be like they think that terrorism is okay. That actually doing life in prison is actually more effective on the person itself as the terrorist, rather than having them sentenced to death.
Are there any more questions? Yes, Senator.
Wait, so this is a person who killed several people, who caused so much pain. So are you really going to not sentence him? I mean, are you really going to deny those people justice just for some money?
Oh, I am not saying that at all, Senator. What I'm saying that the death penalty is not the way, it's not the solution to this problem. There are many other solutions that we can implement on Tsarnaev, such as the other senator mentioned, life in prison without parole, and then another with also solitary confinement.
Any other questions?
Maran.
Yes, Senator Maran. And this will be the last question for today for your speech.
Senator, a poll conducted by NBC News and SurveyMonkey found that 47% of those questioned wanted Tsarnaev to be executed, while 42% would prefer he be in prison for life. Isn't this the right choice for execution?
But
Everybody seems to.
that may be a good statistic that you have found, but there's I've found more statistics from the NC. It was from the NCADP, where actually more people prefer sending the terrorist or the criminal as life in prison rather than sending them, giving them the death penalty. So I'm not quite sure where you got your information from.
All right, thank you, Senator Rafeea, for that speech. You may take your seat.
Okay, hang on.